Welcome to the channel and welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. I'm Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's jump straight into it. Let's kick off with none other than, you've guessed it, Benjamin Sesko. He's the talk of the town at the moment and the player that is doing the most rounds, the player that we're interested in, we're in negotiations or in talks with as well. Let's go for the latest there. So just to pick up where we left yesterday, which was that Newcastle had submitted an official bid for Benjamin Sesko, and we'll run through the timeline of events from there. So that official bid, David Ornstein said that RB Leipzig's view Newcastle offer for Benjamin Sesko as insufficient. Newcastle's proposal of 75.5 million plus 5 million after RB Leipzig asked interested clubs for 75 plus add-ons plus sell-on. Man United pursuit also continues, but no bid yet. 22-year-old undecided. So David Ornstein coming out suggesting that bid had been or was insufficient, which is technically rejected because Newcastle had offered 75.5 million, but Leipzig want 75 plus add-ons plus a sell-on clause as well. So it's kind of in the details regarding the bid from Newcastle. Well, that bid has been technically rejected by RB Leipzig. Then we've had Ben Jacobs, I thought, summarised it quite well, said that although Leipzig haven't lowered their price all summer, despite clubs believing this would happen, the fixed fee has been met by Newcastle, and very intentionally. So as the news I brought you yesterday, Ben Jacobs was saying that this is Newcastle's tactics to try and get a deal done with the hope that either United will walk away if we can't match or can't beat their sort of offer. Ben Jacobs also said the 75 million euro part of their offer was made after Leipzig quoted the figure only 72 hours ago. Payment terms, add-ons, and an agreed sell-on did not meet Leipzig's expectations. However, Leipzig sources say it was higher than any other club this summer, Newcastle considering whether to improve. So again, Ben Jacobs kind of suggesting that maybe the 75 million euro part of their bid they're okay with, but they want the payment terms to be different, the add-ons, and more importantly, a sell-on clause by the sounds of things for Benjamin Sesko in the deal, which is interesting. And then Romano has come out with, let's firstly remind ourselves around these figures, because is this one of the reasons why Arsenal walked away from this deal, because of all this nonsense, and they decided to go for Gyökeres instead? Because Arsenal had a tough time trying to negotiate with Sesko, and the belief was that maybe towards the end of the transfer window his price would come down, but it seems like RB Leipzig are not playing ball on that at all. But let's remind ourselves of the actual deal. So Romano said there's a gentleman's agreement between Sesko and RB Leipzig that if he tells Leipzig there's a club he considers special, then the price will drop to 70 to 80 million euros and 5 to 10 million in add-ons. So I don't know whether Sesko would consider Newcastle a special club. We don't know whether he would consider Manchester United a special club, right? We don't know his feelings, but by all accounts, he has this sort of gentleman's agreement with RB Leipzig that he can go between 70 to 80 million euros, between 5 and 10 million add-ons. So the worst case scenario for that is if he does see us as a special club, 80 million plus 10 million in add-ons, that's 90 million euros, which is about 78 to 79 million pounds for Benjamin Sesko. Like, at what point in time do we just walk away from this? Because that's an extraordinary amount of money to pay for a 22-year-old un-Premier League proven player. Where have we seen that story before? And it's still like, I don't know. I'm still concerned about this deal. Like, I think he's a good player and he's got potential, and he looks like, and he is a, very talented player. And the belief is he could go on to be one of the best strikers in the world, right? But should have, would have, could have. Garnacho could have gone on to be one of the best wingers in the world. His attitude sucks, and now we're selling him. So, like, there's all these risks involved in this sort of deal. And it's 79, nearly 80 million pounds. We've been down that road before, and it just worries me. It worries me about Sesko. But again, but I will, the devil's in the detail. Ineos so far with their transfers, I think, have got, a majority okay. They've been okay with their transfers. I can't really fault too many of their deals. I don't think we've necessarily overpaid by a massive amount for players as well. So if they think he's worth it, they think he's worth it. But that's the worst case scenario. And again, that would all depend on whether Benjamin Sesko sees Newcastle or sees Man United as a special club, in which case you could get him. I mean, it would be funny though if Newcastle's bid of 75 plus 5 million, let's just say 80 million euros got rejected, and then Sesko tells RB Leipzig that he sees United as a special club, and then we end up getting Sesko for less than what Newcastle had bid. That would be brilliant if we could do that. But I don't know. I'm confused by this deal. It's a strange one for me, but we are where we are. So that was a reminder just around the price and the fee regarding Benjamin Sesko. So since then, though, Romano has said that Newcastle sent a bid to RB Leipzig, which was rejected, but negotiations are ongoing and Newcastle are prepared to pay whatever it takes. There's a lot of talk about bids accepted and rejected, but it's all about Sesko and what he will say. When he says, I want to go to this club, then the story will take a clear direction. Bids at the moment won't make a difference. So Romano just, cooling down a few of because there's been absolute, I could have done about 30 slides, I reckon, with Sesko news over the last 24 hours. It's been ridiculous with people saying he's chosen United, he's chosen Newcastle, and all of this waffle. And I think it's just people guessing to try to be first, and it's really frustrating instead of actually just waiting to see what happens. Because ultimately, what Romano's saying, which is exactly the reality of the situation with this deal, is we're just waiting for Sesko to make a decision. If he chooses to come to United, the Newcastle are going to walk away, and then that leaves us with an open door to start negotiating. Maybe he sees us as a special club, maybe he doesn't, but we can start the ball rolling in regards to that. And if he chooses Newcastle, then we'll walk away and pivot to somebody else as well. And that's the situation that we're in. The latest regarding it, though, so Romano did say, from now, so Saturday evening, we are entering important stages. I can add two more factors to this story. The agent of Sesko is now in Leipzig to speak directly with the player and also to help negotiations with RB Leipzig. So that's interesting. Romano saying that Benjamin Sesko's agent is now in talks, speaking directly with the club. And then also the other factor is that Manchester United told RB Leipzig again on Saturday that they will send a bid for Sesko if the player opens the doors to joining them. After contact a few days ago, Manchester United called again tonight to tell RB Leipzig that they are prepared to come and bid for Sesko. So United haven't walked away. We haven't been bothered by Newcastle's bid, even though it's been rejected as well. And we are still committing to going for Benjamin Sesko, providing he gives us the go-ahead for the deal as well, which is really, really interesting. Now, one of the reasons why I think we're doing it that way is Jan Fjortov said the following. So Manchester United's approach for Sesko carries a degree of risk. They're waiting for the player's approval before making a decisive move. Leipzig, however, are keen to avoid that scenario. They want multiple clubs in the race to drive up the fee as much as possible. If Sesko's camp gives the green light to Club A, Club B is effectively out of the picture. And that's where I think that we are. Newcastle are going aggressive and making bids and trying to get the negotiations done and get a deal done early with the club. Whereas United are waiting for the players' approval, and once if we get the players' approval, then then we'll make our bid, and then we'll start negotiating. And I think that's the right thing for two reasons. One, it gives you a bit more power in terms of negotiations and bargaining. Secondly, we know we only want players to come to United because it's Manchester United. So we don't get that full commitment from players, we ain't signing them anymore. And that's the reality. That's the way I think about it, is because if Sesko doesn't commit to United before us making a bid or before us going in official negotiations, then we're just going to be bidding and toing and froing, and then he's going to end up going to whoever pays the most money for him. And if we ended up paying the most money for him, do you really want that player at United, that profile of player at United anyway? You want players to actually refuse deals and maybe even refuse better offers from other clubs, like Mbumo. I think I can't remember who it was, but someone was saying they got offered more money by Newcastle, rejected them. So it's not about the money for Brian Mbumo, it's about the fact he wanted to come to Manchester United. And I'm sure there would have been, good offers on the table for Matheus Cunha as well from Champions League clubs that are interested in him, and they've refused. And that's the profile of player we want. Amorim's done a couple of interviews recently, and he has said in those interviews, the characteristics is what we're looking at. We are recruiting players with characters and the right personalities that want to play for Manchester United. And I think that's why United are doing it, and I don't blame them for that neither, because if we start a bidding war and then you buy a player just because you've outbid them, where have we seen that before, when we've just thrown money at a player to try and get him in? How often has that worked out? Not very often for ourselves. Alexis Sanchez springs straight to mind in that scenario where we offered him, a ridiculous wage to outbid Man City, and the rest is history. And we're trying to avoid that, and I like United's approach for it. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments. Let's go through the rest of the news. So Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs said that Newcastle fear Benjamin Sesko is holding out for Manchester United move after seeing their bid rejected. And then we've also had Sky Sports Germany. Manchester United are ready to match Newcastle's bid for Sesko. So if we do get the go-ahead, then we're ready to match. Although why would we match Newcastle's bid? Because their bid's been rejected, so we'd have to do something different or improve it unless he does have this agreement with a special club, and in which case we might be able to get it a little bit cheaper. Sky Sports are saying that Benjamin Sesko is open to both projects, but is leaning towards Manchester United. And Ben Jacobs also said that Newcastle are willing to increase their bid for Leipzig for Benjamin Sesko, confident they can get agreement on both the fee and the payment structure. Both Newcastle and Manchester United are now awaiting his decision, which is expected soon. So we are still in a position at the time of recording this video where we are waiting for Benjamin Sesko's decision, and then depending on who he picks, they'll go for the player and they'll get him, and it is what it is. And that's all we can do. The rest is just noise at the moment. There's absolutely tons of it going around. Honestly, like I said earlier, I could have done 30 slides, I reckon, on all the reports and this person saying he's coming to Newcastle, or the Newcastle confident and United are confident and favourites and all this stuff. And it's just noise at the moment, because the reality is Sesko hasn't made his mind up yet. And until he does, we don't know. And if he chooses us, then we're probably going to go for him, and we might get him. And if he chooses Newcastle, then we'll walk away and we'll move on to someone else. And that's the reality of the situation, which I don't actually have an issue with. I've never, not that I don't want Sesko. I've never been, I just worry about the money. That's the one thing. I just worry about the price for Benjamin Sesko, because we have been down that road before, and I think it's a massive amount of money for somebody that's un-Premier League proven and not exactly had an outstanding season last season for RB Leipzig. But, I'll trust the player, the people involved, Christopher Vivel and people like that, who have actually been really good at their recruitment since they've come into the club. So and that's all we can do. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments. Now, if we don't get Sesko, if he does choose to go to Newcastle, Rob Dawson is saying that if Manchester United fail to sign Sesko, they may intensify their pursuit of Ollie Watkins. Interest in Sesko persists with ongoing discussions with RB Leipzig. So Rob Dawson suggesting if we don't get Sesko, then we'd maybe pivot back towards Ollie Watkins, which I'm not particularly bothered about neither as well. I'm happy with either. To be fair, my preference would actually be Ollie Watkins. I've said that before, but I'm happy with Sesko. I'm happy with Watkins. Either way, it's a win-win situation for me personally. I know some of you have different preferences, and I'm sure you'll share them in the comments below. Interestingly, though, on Ollie Watkins, United could be given a chance to sign Ollie Watkins this summer, as Aston Villa reportedly ready to offload the striker to fund a move for Chelsea's Nicholas Jackson. The Mirror said that Villa want to test Chelsea's resolve for the striker who worked under Unai Emery at Villarreal. The Blues are, however, holding out for an £80 million fee. That's ridiculous. Villa could go some way to fund the move by cashing in on Watkins. The report says that the England man wants a fresh challenge and is unsettled over the speculation surrounding his future. So I read that in the Manchester Evening News, but obviously it's coming from the Mirror. And that would be, in my mind, the perfect scenario. We get Watkins, Villa get Jackson, and then they get the money to buy Garnacho, and we get some cash back so we can move on with the rest of the transfer window. I like that little threesome personally, but I don't know whether it's going to happen, because obviously we're going all in for Sesko. But that would be an ideal scenario for me personally. I prefer that than going for Sesko, in my opinion. But that's just my thoughts. I'm sure you'll have different ones, and that doesn't mean I'm not bothered if we go for Sesko. It's just there's less red flags in that scenario, and plus we get cash then from Chelsea for Garnacho. We'll go for his news in a bit as well, but give us your thoughts on that in the comments. And then Simon Stone's confirming one of the stories that I brought to you yesterday around the budget, saying that Manchester United's ongoing spending is supported by savings from Rashford's salary, sell-on clauses, and structured payments for Cunha and Mbeumo. Club sources confirm efforts to sign RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko are continuing. So Simon Stone is connected with the clubs, just done an interview today with Ruben Amorim and all sorts. So, when he's saying that the spending is supported by Rashford, the sell-on clauses, and all the the structure of the deals we've done this transfer window, which is fair enough. But that's all the latest at the time of recording regarding Benjamin Sesko. Give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. There's been a few reports regarding the midfield, so we'll go through the Lopez stuff first. So according to Sport in Spain, and Sport are a big Spanish news outlet as well, saying that Manchester United have made approaches for Barcelona staff Fermin Lopez. It's thought United are willing to offer up to €70 million for £61.1 million for him, and the player has been aware of the interest. Lopez is seen as a player who would fit into United's system under Ruben Amorim, and the report claims they spoke to Barcelona about him in the negotiations over Marcus Rashford. And again, I read that in the Manchester Evening News from a Spanish report suggesting that United have made approaches for Fermin Lopez. Now, Lopez is actually a player that we've been linked with multiple times in the past, very talented midfielder. Definitely one I could see, doing well in the system and under Ruben Amorim. However, Fabrizio Romano has poured cold water on it, saying at the moment I am told there is nothing concrete in it. Also, because the first point is Barcelona don't want to sell Fermin Lopez. Second point, any chance for Fermin Lopez to go this month is only in case the player goes to Barcelona, goes to Sporting Director Deco and Hansi Flick and says, I want to go, I want to leave. He did also go on to say that they would want a massive amount of money for him as well. And we don't buy players from Barcelona. That's the reality. I can't remember the last player we bought from Barcelona, but we always get linked with all their players every single summer and every single transfer window. We are linked with Barcelona players and we never sign any of them. So, but yeah, Romano saying no, we're not interested in Lopez because he'll be expensive. He would have to ask to go, and they don't want to sell him. So there we go. So we'll put that one to bed straight away. Now, another midfielder that we can put to bed is Xavi Guerra. So after previously rejecting a new contract at Valencia, Man United target Xavi Guerra is now close to agreeing new terms. Valencia want to tie the midfielder down until 2029 and triple Guerra's salary. A new deal would mean a move to United is unlikely. That came from them again. Read that in the Manchester Evening News, suggesting that Xavi Guerra is going to sign a new contract at Valencia. I did say that at the time. That's how it felt when the stories were coming out, that it felt like agent talk, putting United's name out there to get his client a better deal. Although Guerra is a player that we have been linked with in the past, but again, how true were those links? We could have just been being used this entire time. So it looks like, according to the Manchester Evening News, Xavi Guerra's potentially going to be signing a new contract at Valencia. So that's another one off the table for the midfield position. One player that could be plausible, though, is Hjulmand. So Ruben Amorim's been attempting to bring Morten Hjulmand to Manchester United. The deal would be difficult as Sporting want around €80 million for him. Now, that came from Duncan Castles. Now, Duncan Castles is always like a hit and miss journalist. Actually quite connected, though, when it comes to like George Mendes clients. And I'm pretty sure Hjulmand has something to do with George Mendes as well, or Sporting do anyway. So that's potentially one to keep an eye on. But we don't have €80 million. I don't think Hjulmand is worth €80 million neither as well. So, but he is definitely a player of interest. I'm sure Amorim would love to bring him in as well. Obviously, one of his midfield generals at his time at Sporting, and was he captain there as well, I believe, so has clear leadership qualities as well. So that wouldn't be a bad shout if we could get some money in. Maybe Hjulmand does become a viable option, but at the moment, the reality is the midfield targets has gone completely quiet, and there is an argument to say for Sesko's price, should we not just walk away and strengthen the midfield, go for a top quality midfielder, and then worry about the striker situation next summer now that we've got Mbeumo and Cunha through the door? Can Højlund do a job? Can Xerxes play there? Could we play, Cunha up front or Mbeumo up front in certain games? Like, I think we'd have potential cover for this season anyway. Is there not an argument to say, should we not just spend that money on a top quality midfielder if one's available? But obviously not. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out, but give us some suggestions on that in the comments below. Now let's go through all the exit news. So to start with Garnacho. Alejandro Garnacho prioritises Chelsea. Player side talks occurred. No negotiations with Manchester United yet, as price is key. Deal timing not imminent. May take time with Chelsea focusing on outgoing. So Fabrizio Romano did a post saying that Chelsea were looking at Xavi Simons and Alejandro Garnacho. Alejandro Garnacho liked it on Instagram as well, so clearly he's waiting to go to Chelsea. That's not exactly breaking news. That's probably been, on the cards for probably since January. In reality, although we have had reports of other teams, like Napoli would have been the other one that would have been interesting to see this summer. But as soon as the reports came out saying he wanted Premier League football, it's always been Chelsea, really, hasn't it? I just hope that we get the right price for Garnacho and don't get our pants pulled down, because Chelsea always win when it comes to transfer battles with us, and I've got a horrible feeling that they're going to do the same again, where they're going to get Garnacho at an absolute bargain price. But the reality is we want rid of him. There's clearly something that's happened behind the scenes. I don't like his attitude and ego personally. I think it's like him liking posts and stuff like that as well is something I don't personally like, and I don't like the fact this has all been aired out in public neither as well. But yeah, clearly he wants to go to Chelsea, and Chelsea are waiting to, ironically, Chelsea in a sell to buy situation as well. Who would have thought that? Not just us then that has to be in that situation. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. On Garnacho himself, though, Ruben Amorim said that he is a really talented boy, but sometimes things don't work out. You cannot explain specifically what it is. It's clear he wants a different thing with a different leadership. So that was on an interview he did with the BBC, basically saying that he's talented, but sometimes it doesn't work out, and he clearly wants different things with a different leadership group. And I wonder if part of it, I've said this before in a previous video, and I was speaking to my brother-in-law the other day, and I was like, what if he just don't want to be a number 10? Because Amorim's come in, wants to play his system and play his way, and I think he's tried to obviously play Garnacho. And what if Garnacho's like, no, I see myself as a left winger that cuts inside and shoots all the time. That's how I want my career to go, like a inverted Iron Robin on that side of the pitch. And fair enough, it is what it is. But yeah, I just hope we get value for money for him. That's my worry with the Chelsea links, is that we end up getting our pants pulled down, and he ends up going for less than, if they're paying the sort of money they have done for, like, Mudaweki. They sold him for 55 million. They've bought Jamie Gittins for the same as well. Like, we should be getting that sort of money, especially from Chelsea, for Alejandro Garnacho, in my opinion. But we'll wait and see how that one plays out. And then we've had talk over the last couple of days regarding Bruno Fernandes. So Bruno Fernandes wants to stay at least one more year with Manchester United. Al Nassr made an informal approach following on from Al Hilal's attempt to sign Fernandes before the Club World Cup. Bruno Fernandes' position remains firm. He wants to stay. So interesting from Ben Jacobs suggesting one more year. And then potentially this is something we could look at again next summer if we need some cash or we don't get European football again. But I think a lot would depend on our situation with Bruno as well. But that would be interesting. And then Fabrizio Romano said no talks taking place between Al Nassr and Bruno Fernandes at this stage. Bruno focused on Manchester United after saying no to Al Hilal in June. So Bruno's not going anywhere or not going back to Saudi. I didn't think the stories would... he's already rejected them. His family doesn't want to go there as well. He had the opportunity, and I don't think he's going to change his mind now, regardless of the money, because, we refused £100 million, and he rejected like a absolutely insane contract earlier on. Like, I don't think he's going to change his mind now. So Bruno's set to stay at least maybe for one more year, and then we'll see how that plays out. And then on Rasmus Højlund, Jan Fjortov is saying that Manchester United will let Højlund go. They want £30 million for him. Talks have already been ongoing with potential clubs. And then also... Alex Crook has said that Rasmus Højlund has made it clear he does not want to join RB Leipzig, so that might be a bit of a kick in the teeth, especially if we were maybe trying to do some sort of deal involving Højlund and a player exchange for Benjamin Sesko, which I actually don't think would be a bad shout to do. But apparently, according to Alex Crook, Højlund has made it clear he doesn't want to go to RB Leipzig, but Alex Crook, I would say, take with a pinch of salt for now, but we'll wait and see how that one plays out. I do think there is something, though, in Højlund going if we get a striker in, if we get Sesko, or if we get Watkins, or whichever way the striker news plays out. I do think then, because Laurie Whitwell and people like that have been saying that actually it's more likely he's going to leave. But we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens regarding that. And then finally, I just wanted to go through a couple of Ruben Amorim's quotes, because he's gave a few interviews, but the couple of points I picked up, I'm not going to go through all of it. He's done like two 20-minute interviews or whatever. I'm not going to go through all the comments there, but I picked up one really interesting point around because we keep talking about culture and attitude and all of these things, which has been one of the biggest problems at United in recent history anyway, is the player power, the stuff that we don't see on the pitch, the stuff behind the scenes as well. So Ruben Amorim, this is asked specifically when he was asked around the culture at United and what's changed and what's different and stuff. And he said the players are working very well and they have to understand that they must give 100%. If they don't, it will be hard for them here. So that's also important. I feel the group now, if someone comes to the team, I will not have to fight the fight. And I felt last year, as I felt last year, I now feel that I have a group and leadership that will help me with that kind of situation. So Ruben Amorim saying that actually now he's got a leadership group in place so that if players are not toeing the line and if players are being late or if players are answering back or not following instructions or doing whatever has been going on behind the scenes, leaking team news and all of this shit, right, that we've had to put up with as fans for years, with all these leaks and, player unrest and all that absolute waffle. Ruben Amorim's now saying no, he's got a leadership group in place now that's going to deal with all of that shit, because he had to fight those fights last year as well. And if you remember the reports of him like smashing up the changing room after games and stuff, do you know what I mean? Like, so he's had to come in and literally tear the place apart, and that's the way it should be. Fergie had his generals, and the dressing room used to run itself with the characters that we had behind the scenes with, Roy Keane and Cantona and, Giggs, Neville, even Wayne Rooney. You could go on with the examples, Vidic, Patrice Evra, Rio Ferdinand, like these characters, Michael Carrick, like I can keep going. I could literally keep going with the characters and the people behind the scenes that used to run the dressing room themselves, which took all the pressure off the manager. And that hasn't been happening at United. There's been such a divide and such a, a split or like a massive issue with culture. He was even saying like the players are now speaking when they're eating dinner and shit. And I'm like, oh my God, was it really that bad at United? But Amorim's coming out and effectively saying, yeah, it must have been because players never used to talk or after meals and stuff like that as well. And I was like, God, no wonder you can't, like, it's not an environment for anybody to be successful in. So I'm glad it's being ripped apart and I'm glad it's changing. On the leadership, so Ruben Amorim has appointed a 6-player committee. Fernandes, Tom Heaton. I said that's why Tom Heaton's been given another contract, because he's seen as a good leader behind the scenes. Harry Maguire, Diego Dallo, Lisandro Martinez, and Nassor Mazraoui to uphold standards, foster a positive atmosphere, and impose sanctions on any rule breakers. So and Amorim said that himself as well. Amorim said that himself, that in an interview, saying they're his leadership group now who are dealing with all the shit. They're like all the, players being late, attitude and all of that stuff as well. And rightly so. And it does, like Amorim said, it takes a bit of pressure off him. So that is fair enough. But I thought that was really interesting from the whole, he's such a good talker, Ruben Amorim. I like watching his interviews and listening to what he's got to say. And I felt really positive after it as well, which is, you've got to feel that way because I've been so miserable. Last season was horrific. So, I'm grabbing onto every little bit of positivity that I can find at the moment. And hopefully we can finish this summer series with a win against Everton tonight. Just on that, Bryan Mbeumo will be making his debut. So it's Bryan Mbeumo debut day today. I'm buzzing to see that as well. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest news and transfer updates. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.